The first learning outcome under practice career professionalism integrate personal objectives with organization goals. Under this learning outcome, we'll be focusing on the following knowledge: work values and ethics, understanding personal objectives, understanding organizational goals, difference between intra and interpersonal relationship, and finally, performance evaluation. As you go through each of this content, remember to review the document or the PDF file, then watch the video, then proceed to answer the question. So good luck, and I'll see you in the next content. Work values and ethics. A code of ethics is a set of guidelines which are designed to set out acceptable behavior for members of a particular group, association, or profession. It is a part of the expectations of those individuals in the many different types of professions. Ethics seeks to resolve questions dealing with human morality. Concepts such as good and evil, right and wrong, virtue and vice, justice and crime. Workplace ethics are moral guidelines specific to a business environment. They involve everything from honesty with customers to fair hiring practices to the treatment of fellow employees. Knowledge of and adherence to workplace ethics contributes to one's value as an employee or business owner and leads to greater cohesiveness and the longevity of a business. Types of workplace ethics. First, the business ethics involves honoring contracts, accountability, truthfulness, accounting, practice, and honesty with regards to the quality and safety of products and services. Example of a violation of these ethics would be falsely advertising the benefits of a particular product can offer a customer. It is imperative business create a climate of trust with customers, clients, and partners in order to grow and remain sustainable. These ethics apply to everyone involved in the workplace, from upper level management to scale people and clerks. Number two, employer and management ethics includes hiring and firing practices, as well as overall treatment of employees. Ethical hiring practices entails assessing each candidate according to his or her capabilities and potential value to the company, rather than discriminatory or other superficial consideration. So in the BPO industry, we will have a lot of this is the strong one of the stronger backgrounds in support for proper ethics in hiring and firing as well as taking care of its people. So when you do get hired in the BPO, as long as you pass the training, once you're already part of the workforce of the campaign, it will be very difficult for you to be fired based off only your performance. So normally after 3 months to 6 months, if you are poor performance, that's the only time that they can let you go. But you will undergo many types of performance improvement plans. And if you still fail all of them, that's most likely the time they will have to let you go. Um, but if you fail to meet their standards or in terms of the codes of conduct that they expect employees, like not to harm others or actions that is terminable in the first offense, then you would be fine. So performance-based types of concerns, it takes a long time for you to get removed because they do adhere with this hiring and firing practices really well. Ethics are also involved during the termination of employment, disregarding exceptional cases of extreme employee misconduct. Provide employees with adequate notice of at least a week when termination is necessary. If there are minor job performance issues, management should attempt to communicate with employees and correct the problem before termination is considered. So, like I said before, in the BPO industry, that's about 6 months. Regarding the latter portion, in the prior version, if it's a certain action that you took that is really offensible, that was set and advised to you by the company, then that would be automatic. I know some people in the BPO they did what we call zero tolerance action in their work, and when they were found out they did that, instead of communicating it to them, For a 1 week notice, what took place was they just asked them to leave the premises, as in like, okay, it's your last day, leave, because those types of zero tolerance policy is very really enforced in the BPO industry. Okay, environmental ethics. Business owners, managers, employees should not want only disregarded environmental concerns. This includes managing air, water, and other kinds of pollution, as well as noise pollution and needlessly disrupting the surrounding community. Environmental ethics can also involve incorporating values of environmental sustainability into business practice. In our side, in the BPO industry, we don't really have this types of environmental ethics because our products are not really outside the building. It's more of the service we provide. So for us, it's more the environmental ethics within taking care of ourselves or within the employee structure of the environment of the building for safety, uh, both in the environment as in pollution or to keep it clean, as well as safety when it comes to the structure and where we work. Sexual harassment ethics. Employees should be free from unwanted sexual advances and inappropriate sexual comments. This is particularly a concern for female employees, but sexual harassment also occurs to men and those with an alternative sexual orientation. Employees should always treat each other with respect, and management should create an environment where sexual harassment is not tolerated. So in the BPO industry, this is very enforced. So um, if there are any cases that arises and with evidence of sexual harassment, this falls under normally a zero tolerance policy. So you will be kicked out or you will be fired on the spot if the evidence has been proven and your case is confirmed that you are have or enacted upon this. And lastly, diversity ethics. Respect for diversity is important in the workplace environment. Employees should be free from comments and behavior offensive to their particular culture differences. The workplace environment should maintain a policy of tolerance for difference of religion, race, gender, sexuality, and culture. Diversity ethics extends to hiring and promotion practices. Work ethic depends upon different people characteristic, mindset, situation, work atmosphere, and in common the overall conclusion comes to honesty, dedication, interest, creativity, activeness, involvement, and decision making in work. We can explain these in different ways according to human natural behaviors, society, cultures, and way of living. So in the BPO industry, diversity is very empowered. Meaningfully, your background, your cultural, will not define on how you grow within the company, but rather your performance based. And as much as possible, we don't allow discrimination to take place in the floor. Again, this will also fall just like with the number four, sexual harassment. If there seems to be sort of discrimination between ethnic groups or cultures or sexuality or whatever, and it's proven that there was this type of um, hate, less uh, to lose for the better word, that is arising, then this can also become a terminable action in this industry because it's very strict regarding that. But most likely it doesn't really happen a lot. But at least you now know that it can take place. So we're done with this content. You may move on to the quiz and move on to the next section. All right, I'll see you there. Understanding personal objectives. The next content. Goals are the actions by which individuals express the end point where effort is directed to define accomplishment. They are relatively abstract and may be difficult to quantify. Objectives or targets are specific accomplishments that are often time bounded, action oriented results. Objectives are usually milestones that define the route to accomplish strategic and tangible measurable outputs. Strategies and or activities are the methods and or process required to accomplish objectives or goals. Key results. You should use measurable actions to define how objective accomplishment progresses over time. Then finally, tasks are actions item required to implement the plan. Tasks have a small scope and are action oriented, defining a means by which to achieve a successful key result. So now we know a bit of those terminologies. Let's go move ahead on to an objective defines the answers to with what is it I want to accomplish. It should be aligned with what defines organizational success, but more important, must be personally meaningful slash aspirational. They should also be aligned and supported by the entire organization. Objectives are about how you can grow parallel with the rest of your team. Increasing inbound, for example, if you're working in the BPO industry for inbound sales, you want to increase inbound sales effectiveness by 25%. In this example, the objective is set as a public and is defined by explicitly measurable, accomplishable by but a bit of a stretch, employee driven and continuous, transparent and accountable. So you're part of the ownership for that success. So how we can do a personal objective to achieve it, we can use the SMART indicator for objective. Uh, so it should be first S specific, then M for measurable, A for acceptable, 3 realistic, and T time bound. So for specific goals and targets should have a clear link to the organizational plan. So um, normally when you have new goal set by the campaign or by the clients from the states or from abroad, they're the one who's going to give you the new goals, not necessarily really the call center itself, but the clients themselves. So it'll be specific and it will be a stretch, believe me. Measurable. All goals and targets should contain something to measure them by. The measurement should be quantitative and qualitative, and it is. So in the BPO industry, normally the qualitative will be your CSATs, your score sheets regarding your average handle time or chat time. It will be your attendance. It will be the quality of your interaction with the customer, what we call quality assurance scores, and then there will be a customer satisfaction or customer survey that is part of the qualitative and quantitative as well. So um, part of the quantitative mostly is like I mentioned earlier. Sorry, I said qualitative. The data like the QA data, the CSA, the AHT data, as well as the your attendance. So those are the things that they look at, and of course they will be putting measurements against that for you to achieve. Account acceptable. If both parties need to agree or accept the objective, it should not be imposed. Unfortunately, in the BPO, that's not true. If the client sets it, you have to agree because they're paying you to do the work. So they will not set a goal that's impossible for us to achieve, but they will set a goal that is challenging if you're used to a certain way of doing things, just to say it the least. Are realistic. The realism should be in terms of the ability and potential of the individual coupled with the needs of the organization. The measure should be attainable within the required time period and with the resource available. Results have to be feasible. So most of the time it is. I'm saying most of the time because sometimes it takes some people longer to adjust, but normally there's a lot of leeway with that. And lastly, time bound. The objective should be achievable within an agreeable time scale. So when you do personal goal setting, when there's new goal set, normally all of these areas are already given. What you need to learn is just to accept it in your on your end and figure out how to be able to gain those skills because in the end of the day there's no choice when we work in the BPO, whatever the client wants, as much as it's within or near the most recent provision that they provided as a goal marker or for a KPI, then we will adjust because if you're working in a call center, which I'll explain later on why they do that, is because we need to be competitive, because there are other people also trying to get that type of campaign to go to their call centers. All right. So with that being said, we're done with this content, and please go ahead and answer the quiz so that you'll be able to learn more in the next content. See you there. Next is understanding of uh, organizational goals. Okay. Goals is defined as the overall objective, purpose, and mission of a business that have been established by its management and communicated to its employees. Goals and objective provides organization with a blueprint that determines a course of action and aids them in preparing for future changes. We have two types of goals. Official goals, the general aims of an organization as expressed in the corporate charter, annual reports, public statement, and mission statements. Their purpose is to give the organization a favorable public image, provide legitimacy, and justify its activities. And two, operative goals reflect the actual intention of the organization. They describe the concrete step to be taken to achieve the organization's purpose. They often don't correspond with the official goals. For us, we will be falling under the operative goals because we want to achieve a certain landmark so that we can gain the official goals for the company. But since it's not really like we're trying to create something new, it's more about creating support and trying to get more clients to look at that call center as a very effective call center. Then, of course, so that they can get more business, the main goal for that would be to provide the best experience to the customers of the clients that they have. So the benefit of organizational goals is serve as guidelines for action, directing and channeling employee efforts. They provide parameters for strategic planning, allocating resources, and identifying development opportunities, which none of us will be part of. Normally, the ones who will be part of this, such of this, will be the management, either the managers and up. Even supervisors will not be privy to these types of organizational setting. So most likely, we'll just be in the receiving end of this information, and we just have to adjust and work towards it. Provide constraints in the organization, choosing certain goals, reducing discretion in pursuing other goals. Act as source of illegitimacy by justifying an organization's activity and existence. Define standards of performance. To the extent that goals are clearly stated, they set standards for evaluation. And provide a source of motivation by presenting a challenge and load to achieve it and how to achieve it. Sorry, organization goals act as behavioral incentives. So there are some in big call centers. No, normally this doesn't really have a vast reflection, but in rising call centers, like if you have call centers that are growing from 500 to upwards, like 1,000, 2,000 employees, I was part of that type of BPO industry where they did have a lot of meetings with the whole team or with the whole company, so that they can share their organizational goals to empower each of the individuals to know that what they're doing makes an impact, and as they grow and perform better, it reflects better to the clients as well as the positive feedback, and we get more clients to allow our company to grow. So this has taken place in some medium-sized BPOs, but for multinational size, like go that they have over 200 20,000 or 10,000 employees, this might not really take place because they might have high turnover. So most likely they will only give this type of organizational goals to them upper management, uh, ending probably at the last with the supervisor. Okay, so with that being said, go ahead and now continue to the quiz, and I'll see you in the next content. Good luck. Next, difference between intra and interpersonal relationships. Personal development, as defined, is the process of improving oneself through such activities as enhancing employment skills, increasing consciousness, and building wealth. It's a way for people to assess their skills and qualities, consider their aims in life, and set goals in order to realize and maximize their potential. The extent to which people are able to develop depends on certain needs being met. Intra and interpersonal development. Intrapersonal skills and interpersonal skills are two competency that we must continually develop and refine in order to have the optimal positive effect on people in situations that require change to activities, pro- uh, procedures, and beliefs. So what is interpersonal skills? So intrapersonal skills, I mean. Intrapersonal skills concerns with the state of mind of an individual, the ability to the behavioral stability of that person as measured by their emotional intelligence. Then interpersonal skills is concerned with social intelligence in terms of the interaction of multiple individuals, effects of communication on accomplishing objectives, building relationship with groups and organization. One of the factors of in interpersonal and interpersonal skills development is communication. So it's communication for intra is towards oneself inwards, and interpersonal is towards outward communication outside oneself. So interpersonal communication takes place with a single person, often for the purpose of clarifying ideas or analyzing a situation. It is undertaken in order to reflect upon or appreciate something. It could be called our inner monologue. So some people's inner monologue might be very loud because they speak outward, but that's part of their process. Three aspects of intrapersonal communication: self-concept or focus internally, also called self-awareness. Four factors for intrapersonal communication is belief, values, attitude, and body image. Perception is always focuses outwards. Okay, and perception of the outward world also rooted in the belief, values, and attitude. Expectations, future-oriented messages dealing with long-term roles, sometimes called life scripts, and projections of learned relationship within the family or society. So that's what's an intrapersonal communication. Now let's move on to interpersonal. Interpersonal communication, on the other hand, is the process that we use to communicate our ideas, thoughts, and feelings to other people. Our interpersonal communication skills are learned behaviors that can be improved through knowledge, practice, feedback, and reflection. So when we these are the types of interpersonal communication. Direct interpersonal communication involves a direct face-to-face relationship between the sender and receiver of the message, who are in interdependent relationships. Mediated interpersonal communication involves technology that assists or links the sender and receiver of the message. Yes, it offers the advantage that it allows people to communicate over a distance or throughout a time span that would not be possible in direct communication. And mass communication is more public form of communication between an entity and a large and diverse audience, mediated by some form of technology. So again, intra is towards oneself, analyzing situations and seeing you in that situation. Okay, your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, all of those. And inter is the way we connect and share those messages towards other people. All right. So that's just a short overview of intra and interpersonal skills. And this is very important for us to know so that we can manage our expectation and be able to evaluate how we process things in the work environment in the BPO. So with that, please take the quiz and we'll move on to the next section. And lastly, for this learning outcome, we have performance evaluation. Let me just pull up the correct slide. There we go. Performance evaluation. The definition of performance evaluation is defined as a formal and productive procedure to measure an employee's work and results based on their job responsibility. It is used to gauge the amount of value added by an employee in terms of increased business revenue in comparison to industry standards of overall employee return or on investment or return of investment ROI. All organizations that have learned the art of winning from within by focusing inward towards their employee rely on systematic performance evaluation process to measure and evaluate employee performance regularly. Ideally, Employees are graded annually on their work anniversary, based on which they are either promoted or are given suitable distribution of salary raises. Performance evaluation also plays a direct role in providing periodic feedback to employees, such that they are more self-aware in terms of their performance matrix. Okay, what is the purpose of performance evaluation? Periodic performance evaluation is an employee's report card for his or her manager that acknowledges the work he or she has done in specific time and the scope for improvement. An employer can provide consistent feedback on an employee's strength and strive for improvement in the areas that the employees need to work on. So in the BPO industry, you will be receiving a lot of performance evaluation weekly, if not months, by monthly, if not weekly. Okay, it'll be in the form of either a written report, or it'll be a form of your statistics being provided to you, and an off conversation with your team lead. That's the not the best form, but that is part of the performance evaluation. But normally on a month-to-month basis, or at least on a bi-monthly basis, you will be speaking with your manager, your supervisor, to discuss regarding your current performance. Okay, and that's normally called the coaching session with your team lead. What is the purpose of performance evaluation? So its purpose is to integrate platforms for both employee and employer to obtain common ground on what both think is benefiting or befitting a quality performance. This helps in improving communication, okay, usually leads to better and more accurate team metrics, and thus improve performance results. The goal of this entire process of performance evaluation is to improve the way a team or organization functions to achieve higher level of customer satisfaction. A manager or supervisor should evaluate his or her team members regularly and not just once a year. This way, the team can avert new and unexpected problems with constant work being done to improve competence and efficiency. An organization's management can conduct frequent employee training and skill development sessions based on the development area recognized after a performance evaluation session. The management can effectively manage the team and conduct productive resource allocation after evaluating the goals and presets standards of performance. Regular performance evaluation can help determine the scope of growth in an employee's career and the level of motivation with which he or she contributes towards the success of an organization. Performance evaluation lets an employee understand where does he or she stand as compared to others in the organization. So when we do get our performance evaluation, whether it's bi-monthly or monthly or even weekly, it's a great thing that your company provides that for us so that we know where our standing is. And in that performance evaluation, we also will get feedback from our team lead to help us understand why we are where we are, and how do we get to where we want to go, which of course wants to get a better score. But normally if you are already in the passing level of all your matrix, normally that's good to go. You'll just have a quick conversation, but normally if there was a level of trying to achieve a certain gap, then you might have a longer conversation with them, or a coaching session. So this performance evaluation, if you do not get regularly from your BPO company, is very concerning, because this is something that we really need to be able to perform better and provide better feedback. Okay, so remember this when you start working in the BPO. So with that, please go ahead and uh, work on the next topic, and I'll see you in the next content. Please answer the quiz. I'll see you there. Sorry, I mean, this ends our last learning outcome for this learning content under this learning outcome. I'll see you next in the next learning outcome.